Now let's spark this place.
Music and sports, it's all the same. Making a name for yourself to get in the game. You're going hard in the paint, you're doing your thing. Keeping the crowd entertained while growing your fame. From the streets to the league, overseas. Wherever your talent takes you for the trophies. When you come into the system, just by all in. Going hard to the goal and put the ball in. Man, ball.
Yo, this is Trav with Trav's Mad Ballin's 10th episode. So we better get right into it. But before I do that, let me introduce to you my usual co-host, Scott the G, who left me hanging. But here he is now. What's up, Scott?
Don't call it a comeback.
Don't call it a comeback. I'll call it a go away. Now you're back, kind of like a stray cat. You feed him, he keeps coming back. But before we even get to what we're talking about, you saw the thumbnail. You saw what this was about. We're going to do a little bit of talking about the NBA deadline that was just last week. I know we're late to the dance, but the trade deadline still reigns supreme. And there are a few things that we want to talk about as well. I mean, the Knicks didn't make a move. We're talking about Zion Williamson maybe having a second surgery on his foot. He may be out for the season. So keep an eye on us for the next probably half hour as we do this. Also, go to SoundCloud. We're on SoundCloud. Make sure you download SoundCloud, check us out, follow us, share it with other b-ball heads, and we'll get down like that. Anyways, let's get straight to the point. The Knicks lost yesterday. They lost yesterday to the Nets, who did not have anyone available. This is after the blockbuster trade in which Ben Simmons came to the Nets, but he's not playing until after the All-Star game, maybe even sometime in March, but it didn't worry about that. There was no KD, and there hasn't been for a while. There is no Kyrie Irving, who cannot play in New York because he's not vaccinated, but there's a whole bunch of other guys. And one of those guys was Andre Drummond, the newest piece, a true center for the Nets, who was part of a 28-point comeback. They came and beat the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. Are you kidding me? Thibs must go.
I think Andre Drummond, he is the Rodney Dangerfield of the NBA. The guy gets no respect. He does nothing but perform everywhere he goes. He was killing it in Detroit. They got rid of him. He went to Cleveland. He was killing it there. And I don't know. I guess they didn't use him much in Philly. And so he's killing it there. I think they really got a good deal out of this trade. I mean, they got Ben Simmons. We'll see what happens. But they got Andre Drummond. They got Seth Curry. I think this may move them into being the favorites in the East. I might put them above Milwaukee and Miami at this point. Of course, the wild cards are KD's health, Ben Simmons, who knows what the hell is going on. Is Kyrie going to bother to show up, even when there are games where he can play? So he's always a wild card. But I think they really they did well in the trade.
Kyrie's played since he's been there. Kyrie hasn't been a problem for the team other than not being able to play at home. So the time that he's been able to play, he's shown up and he's been an old Kyrie. He just doesn't have any help this time around. And as we saw with the alleged big three in the past, they played a total of 16 games together in a season and a half. That's not exactly an effective big three. Now, what would have been never turned out as it turned out on paper. Well, now without any of those pieces, they have Ben Simmons now, who at least plays defense, which James Harden is known not to do. So that's something we're going to get into later when we kind of sort of get into trying to break down what had happened. But going back to the Knicks, 28 points up against a team who had nothing, and they were at home, Madison Square Garden, which is just across the river, going to from Brooklyn to Madison Square Garden. They lost the game, and there's Julius Randle is beside himself. It seems like Thibs doesn't like Julius Randle. Julius Randle doesn't like Thibs. Anyone who doesn't want to play defense, doesn't like Thibs. He has to go.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because it seemed like such a nice marriage at the beginning of the season. It was like Thibs is love and Julius, and Julius is having, I think it's his best he's been doing. He really, he's in a good position there. But they got a losing record now. They keep blowing it in the clutch or blowing it, all the time. Julius is still playing, at a very high level. So if there's someone going to go, it's usually the coach. And in this case, if someone's got to go, it's probably going to be Tibbs.
Well, this time around, Tibbs is the problem. This time around, Julius Randle, for all intents and purposes, was all but out of New York, at least according to so-called pundits, and there weren't any moves made. Now, is there something going on behind the scenes where he's upset that he wasn't moved? Is Tibbs upset because he couldn't move him? So you have this toxic relationship, at least from the outside looking in, and it's going nowhere. And when you lose to your in-city rival by that kind of a margin, by blowing that kind of a margin, it can't be good news. And I know how it is in New York, but Ben Simmons, a better defensive player than James Harden, and he should be a heck of an addition. I think Drummond may be the big catch, being a true center when everybody's healthy and everybody's there to play. They're going to be a very tough team to get over. Now we want to move a little bit up north in the NBA. The Celtics, your boys.
Yeah.
They blow out the Philadelphia 76ers, 135-87, game after the trade. And we know James Harden hadn't played yet, but the absolute blowout of blowouts, they just went and destroyed them. But Marcus Smart, he gets injured. How much is that going to hurt the Celtics?
I mean, it's a blow. He's kind of the heart and soul of that team. Has more of an impact on defense than offense. Towards that end, they picked up Derek White, who I think will be a very good offensive addition. And seems like didn't they get somebody else as well?
The Celtics?
Yeah.
Does anyone really care what the Celtics do but you?
Yes!
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I thought they got. Anyway, I was disappointed by the Celtics overall because, if Andre Drummond's out there, why don't you get that guy? I tell you what I would have done is I would have sent Jaylen Brown to Philadelphia, and you give me Drummond and Seth Curry. I get an outside shooter, which I need, and I got a big two-way guy inside. They picked up Theis is who they picked up. So they get him back. They got rid of Freedom Enes Kanter, and which to me, those guys are
surprise. I think that was more politics, literal politics, than basketball politics.
Yeah. What the turkey thing or what?
Yeah, the turkey thing, his social stances, which pretty much isn't the consensus in the NBA, probably nationally, but not via the NBA. His train of thought is not what you would expect with the NBA being what it is right now.
Well, I like him in terms of, they've got that authoritarian jerk over there in Turkey, so I really like his stance on that. The rest of it, I don't really know about. But yeah, those guys are more or less interchangeable, mostly defense, maybe a little bit on offense. So, I mean, they've got a decent, they've got a decent, center position, but nothing great. Whereas you bring in Drummond, you bring in Seth, you get the outside shooter, you get the inside two-way center. I think that would have been a huge improvement. Or I would have sent him to the Pelicans. Give me Brandon Ingram and maybe one other player for Jaylen Brown. So I was a little disappointed the Celtics didn't do more, but that's the thing with the modern NBA is the guys like LaMarcus Aldridge, the guy like Andre Drummond. These guys get no respect because they're back to the basket guys. And the new model is you've got DeAndre Ayton, you've got Bam Adebayo. Those guys are a little shorter, they're like 6'9", 6'10". They're fast enough to get out and do the outside protection. They got a little bit of an outside shot. But, screw this fashion. If you've got a guy like Andre Drummond who is productive as he is on both sides of the ball, you need a guy like that.
Yeah, but you also got to look at the way the trade's happening in the NBA. It isn't just player for player, it's salary for salary, and those salaries have to add up. So if there are a couple of players on a team, but the salary doesn't add up to that one star player, the deal isn't going to get made. You have to throw in all of these other salaries and make salary dumps in order to make it happen. So even though those players may be available and it would have made sense, the salaries have to make sense. You have to have cash for cash, dollar for dollar has to match up, in addition to what works out, in their opinion, best for both teams. Now, as far as trades continue to go, because we're talking a little bit of trades before we move on, we can go down to Dallas and see what they had done down there. Luka Doncic, and you had Kristaps Porzingis. They were supposed to be the Batman and Robin European duo down there. It never materialized. Those guys never got in sync together. They couldn't win together consistently. When one was gone, the other one wasn't there. When the other one was gone, the other one was not there. And then when they were together, they weren't getting the results that we were expecting. They get rid of Kristaps Porzingis, send him to the Washington Wizards. What's going to happen in Dallas now? I think they're a better team. Addition by subtraction.
They get Spencer Dinwiddie. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie is a very solid guy.
Very solid.
And the only reason the Nets got rid of him was because they was an embarrassment of riches. And
a knee injury, by the way.
Oh, what? Yeah, but he's recovered, right?
Yes, he's recovered, but it's still a knee injury. We know how these players are. Some, Kevin Durant can come back from an Achilles. Klay Thompson can come back from a knee injury. He's still not Klay Thompson on a consistent basis. That's the thing that happens. I mean, even Porzingis had his Achilles, and he hasn't been the same since. He was supposed to be the unicorn. Now he's just nothing but trouble and a whole bunch of potential still moving along in the NBA. Unrealized completely.
Well, if Dinwiddie can get back to his former self, that can be a huge addition to Dallas. Yeah, Porzingis couldn't stay healthy. I mean, he was good when he got out there, but hopefully Dinwiddie can stay more healthy. Bertrand, what do they call him? Bertrand, something like that. He's a Euro guy, whatever. Yeah, every once in a while, he can hit some outside shots, so he can help you there. And he's probably more healthy more often than Porzingis. So I think Dallas does better. Washington, I think they're a little bit better, but it just depends. I mean, does Porzingis, can he stay healthy or not? So we'll see.
And that's been a problem ever since he was injured, because I remember the year in which he was injured, he was with the Knicks, and he was on that trajectory in the player of the year, the MVP of the NBA argument until the injury came. Now, that was early in the season, and he sat out all the following season, and he hasn't really turned into the consistent big man that does all of the unicorn things, shooting shots, high percentage from 3 points at his height, and being able to get the assist, playing the way he plays like no one else has been able to play. He hasn't been that guy anymore. And so
the talent's there. The upside is almost unlimited, but if you can't stay healthy, you can never develop that. So yeah, I can understand Dallas moving on.
So now Dallas moves on. They send him to Washington, and we get to the trade of trades, at least for this cycle here. The Ben Simmons trade for James Harden. The Nets pull the deal. They give James Harden to the Sixers, not give him, but trade him to the 76ers, and a whole lot of draft picks, and then got a whole bunch of things back, but they sent a whole lot of draft picks out there as well. So what are your thoughts on the amount, who has won and who has lost this battle between the trades on the surface, because they still have to play?
I feel really certain they've won, but I want to ask you, what was Harden's beef? Why did he want to get out so badly? I heard that he was upset about Kyrie, which I understand. I think Kyrie is, a wild card. You never know when he's going to show up. The talent is there, but is the head there? Is the head in the game? He'll just take games off whenever he wants. But who is Harden to be complaining? Harden was the guy that dogged his way out of Houston by coming in out of shape. And yeah, I think Harden's got great talent, but if you just got to move on, especially when you have a chance to pick up Andre Drummond, when you pick up Seth Curry, who's got a really good looking outside shot. And then you get Ben Simmons, who knows? The guy, like you said, he's a defensive star without question. As long as he can be healthy, both physically and emotionally, we'll see.
As far as James Harden goes, this is someone who's been with 3 teams in 2 seasons now. Now, I don't know, with media being what it is today, whether social media or allegedly legitimate media, some people still want to be first instead of right. But there has been a story out there and an article I've read between Kyrie Irving and James Harden. They had a scrimmage once upon a time when Kyrie Irving still hasn't been in game shape because he wasn't allowed to play at home games. So he wasn't necessarily in game shape. Those two played a bit of a one-on-one, according to this story. Now, I don't know how legitimate it is. It's something that was out there. I saw people jump on it. Doesn't make it legit, but it's still somewhat of a story and something interesting to speak about. And he just destroyed James Harden. And then after that, he called him washed. He says he was washed. Now that's as bad as it gets in the NBA or even on the street.
Was this when they were both on the? Is this when they were both on the Nets?
Yeah, they have a. Yeah, it was just recently. They had a scrimmage. You know, you can do that in practice. You just hope that the results don't get out to the public if things aren't in your favor. If you're James Harden, and this is the story. So you could probably check it out on Google, and it may have some validity to it, or you'll get a chance to at least see where it came from, originated from. You know, whether rumor or legitimate. But the bottom line is, this was supposedly had happened, and it was like the final straw of him just saying, you know what, and his fragile psyche, as we've seen, it seems like it is fragile psyche. It's time to get the hell up out of there because of something like that. That was a straw that broke the camel's back. Now he's out in Philly.
So we don't know if it's true, but does it surprise you at all? I think Kyrie's a horrible teammate. So I'm not surprised that, you know, he threw his teammate under the bus. And I think it was time to move on.
I think in private he called him washed. I think this was after he did what he did. It wasn't like he went to the media and said it. I think someone just leaked the story out. If it's legitimately true, someone leaked the story out, and that's good enough in these days. You know, someone can take something that's not true, run with it, find out it's not true, still run with it even further. And that's just the society we live in right now. And
I'm always going to come out against Kyrie Irving because he was such a piece of garbage when he went to my Celtics. So that surprised me. The tie always goes against Kyrie Irving in my case.
Yeah, I noticed that. I see that bias. You just show your bias like unequivocally. There's not even a guess whether it's Billy Donovan, you know, tripping for him, or whether it's one of the former players you jump on. Even the Brandon Ingram, when I talked about him a few episodes ago. Brandon Ingram, come on, give him a break. You don't jump on that guy. You know, you have your guys and I have mine, but your bias is, I have a New York Knicks bias, but I try to get away from it. You just don't care. You embrace your biasness. So let's see if the Lakers can embrace Anthony Davis without hurting him. He's out right now. An ankle injury that may have him out for about 2 weeks, but we've seen his act before. It may not be just 2 weeks.
A bunch of old guys in the injured, dude. That's basically what they have now. And it's kind of sad to see from LeBron's perspective, but for a Laker hater, man, I don't care. I'd love to see Anthony Davis as a great talent. But, I mean, if there's one thing the Lakers are famous for, it is wasting talent. And it looks like, you know, since Davis can't stay healthy there, they're just going to waste his talent, which I think is sad. And it stinks that, you know, LeBron's kind of getting towards the end of his career. And I think these guys will be lucky to make a playoff. I heard someone say today they'll probably be a play-in team. So, you know, that's where the Lakers are now. And, you know, from a Laker hater perspective, I'm glad to see it. I'm hoping Davis, you know, can string together enough, you know, healthy time on the court where we can see his true brilliance, because I think, you know, when he's healthy, he's arguably the best center in the game.
Yeah, and right now, and by the way, he used to be a guard. So that's why he has handled the way he does. He just had this ridiculous growth spurt once upon a time.
He had that late growth spurt. I mean, that's what I mean. He's got the handles, he's got the size, he's got it all, except for the health.
So he's out of position. So even though he's making his money at the position, that's just naturally not what he does, playing with his back to the rim or being a traditional center or even power forward. He's a big guard in a big person's body. And it begs one to ask, or do you not have to ask anymore, is he injury prone? On the surface, of course he's injury prone. If you're injury prone or you get labeled injury prone, that's a hard label to shake, but that's what he is right now. Is there any way, do you think, he could prevent himself from getting injured? Of course, we don't know. This guy has professionals around him. They haven't come to a conclusion or a solution. So why is it him and not all of the others? And he's the youngest out of the group.
I say just take the rest of the year off, because I want to see him be great. And I don't mind the Lakers sucking, so take the rest of the year off.
So are the Lakers out of it? You say they may be in a play-in game right now.
They're a play-in team. They're
currently in 9 seed, so that is play-in territory. And I think, though, you know, teams really get after it. I mean, seriously get after it after the All-Star break, which is coming up. Christmas is when the unofficial start of the season begins and you see teams making moves, but the All-Star break, once that's over, you really start seeing teams picking it up and you should really start seeing where they're heading. You get to see the frauds, you get to see the legitimate teams, you get to see teams that were once hot who are now not, they're falling off. So there's going to be a time to where all of this veteran leadership, whether chemistry is good or not, may just come together at the right time because they really are older guys that still have some talent. And in LeBron's case, he just has talent that's through the roof. Some people saying that he's winning, he's getting useless stats. They're complaining about him missing free throws. Bro, look at his overall record at this point in his career and the success he's having with the team. He's won a championship in the past 3 years. Let's not act like he hasn't been an older guy still winning and he's still trying. He just has a bunch of old guys in misfortune on his Laker team right now.
Well, speaking of which, did the season start too early?
Did the season start when?
Well, they started earlier this year, didn't they?
No, you know what? I don't think they started earlier this year.
Okay, I thought they did because I've heard that, they're going into the All-Star break now and 70% of the season is over. So, my complaint is that's a lot. That makes more time in between, basketball season and the beginning of football season. Because that is a sports desert in between there. What do you
baseball.
have? Hockey,
baseball. Baseball.
Who cares? Get that out of here.
If you're a Yankee fan, you care every year. You're always
exactly.
trying to chase that number 28.
Who cares? Nobody. Just Trav.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Just Trav and a bunch of old dudes.
Millions of Yankee fans all over the country and all over the world are doing the same caring I'm doing. Right now, there's a lockout. Hopefully, they come to a solution. And guys will get back on the diamond soon enough, and we can enjoy some baseball while you can just be a disgruntled old man looking for the draft in the NBA or the draft in the NFL and waiting for preseason games ultimately. Now,
I am a bitter old man. I'll definitely wear that with pride. But I've got to say, we just had a breakthrough because there's one thing you and I agree on. When it comes to baseball, we're diehard Yankees.
Oh, absolutely. Why would anybody be anything different? It's not because you're a winner. See, I'm a legitimate Yankee fan from the Bronx, watched games as a kid. You're someone from afar that just jumped on the bandwagon and we allowed you to do it. So have fun while you're there.
Let me tell you something, young man. My daddy was a New York Yankees fan when you were still a twinkle in your daddy's eye. So he was back. He's an old school. He's an old school Yankee
fan. Yeah, he
fan.
watched Roger Maris. I'm sure he did too.
He did. When he got booed for crying out loud.
There'll be a time, once upon a time, for baseball on another show, which I will be doing ultimately. But before we do that, let's go to Zion Williamson. The story with him, he may be requiring a second foot surgery, so he may be out for the season. It has not been determined yet, but right now, as it seems, he may be heading for a second foot surgery. That means he would not have played at all this season. And on top of that, he may miss the entire season. He would be like Greg Oden. In 3 seasons, Zion would have played 85 games when Greg Oden just played 82 games. But I don't think the outcomes are going to be the same. I think Zion, his foot injury is different than Greg Oden's wrist injury. And
that micro fracture, man. That guy was never the same. That's good.
I didn't think that Greg Oden was that great anyway. I thought he was just going to be another first-round pick overall and be a decent player, not Kwame Brown, boss. But I thought that he would be. I know, don't shush with Kwame Brown. He might come after me. Don't worry about it. I've spoken to Kwame Brown legitimately, officially. I've spoken to Kwame Brown before. So I don't think he'll mind little old me saying something like that because he embraces his busness as well. He has a YouTube channel that says so. But Greg Oden missed 82 games as well when he was out for the first 3 seasons, and he just didn't work out at all. I mean, he ended up having, I think I might have heard mental issues. There were things he was doing that kind of were a little batty and whatnot. But anyways, with Zion, I think his injury, he's a younger dude. He could probably take care of it. He might have to change his style of play. He can't jump around like he used to, but I still think that he'll be a lot of what we expected when he gets back. He just has to do it in moderation and not overextend himself.
You're right that Zion, when he came in, he had a much higher ceiling than Greg Oden came in. And if Greg Oden had a lot of problems, can you blame him? I mean, everyone thought when he was at Ohio State, they're going to win the national championship. But who did he run into? Billy Donovan and the Gators. And they put a whooping on him that he never recovered from.
Stop.
Where's my Gator hat when I need it?
Gator hat, yeah. Just be glad you got the Yo Trav Matt Ballin shirt. The Gator hat can go somewhere and it can still stay somewhere. Yeah, I knew that we will eventually see that. Luckily, people who are going to listen to the podcast on SoundCloud, they don't have to worry about this visual right here. If you're watching it on YouTube, you'll get a chance to see that, and you can put your comments at the bottom and let him know what you really think. And since we're segueing into the college game, let's talk about something that not many people talked about initially. This is Coach K's last season at Duke. But before it all ended, he already appointed his successor, which is Jon Scheyer, who's on his team, or coach on his team. But now that it's getting closer to his swan song ending, there's been a story that had come out that talked about how Duke initially wanted Tommy Amarger to become the new coach at Duke. And that was another one of Coach K's players and Coach K's former assistant coaches who's now coaching at Harvard. I think he was at Seton Hall before that, but he's at Harvard right now. He's had an excellent time at Harvard. And it wasn't exactly received by him nicely when he found out that he wasn't going to have the job.
Well, as a designated Duke hater, although I've relapsed a little bit from my pure hatred, it's kind of sad to see that there's a little bit of dispute over this. But as a Tar Heel guy, if there's a little controversy in Duke, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, what's the difference between these two guys? One of them was at an Ivy League school, right?
Yeah. But he was at Seton Hall before that. But I think it goes a little further than that, especially in today's social climate. We saw what happened with Brian Flores in Miami and his allegations and what he's gone through being a Miami Dolphins, now former head coach, and all these things that he's accusing other teams and the NFL, and what he's also suing the NFL over right now in terms of race issues. So, it's just glaring. That's the elephant in the room. Why did you take Scheyer over Amarger? And Amarger's already proven that he can lead a team. And he didn't get the job.
Amarger's he's black?
He's a black coach. Of
okay.
Course. He's a black coach. And Duke's president.
He coached in the Ivy League.
He's still coaching right now. He's coaching
right now.
Kind of like
Michelle Obama's brother.
Yeah, Michelle Obama's brother was horrible at Oregon State, man. I mean,
I thought he was at Harvard or something.
No, he was at Oregon State. He was coaching there, and they got him the hell out of there. That guy was an atrocious coach. Now they have another atrocious coach now, so it might not have been just him. But the president of Duke, Vincent Price, wanted Tommy Amarger, and Coach Krzyzewski gave him pushback and got his own guy in there. And in fact, Ian O'Connor is a sports writer. He has a book that came out that is called Coach K, The Rise and Reign of Mike Krzyzewski. And he had these things to say about it. He was mentioned how it all came out because of his book and what he had mentioned of how the president wanted Amarger and how Krzyzewski wanted someone different, wanted Scheyer. And Scheyer has the job, and Amarger isn't very happy about not getting that opportunity. Who would not be happy about not getting the opportunity?
So is Coach K a racist? Is that what we're saying?
No, you know what? Is that what we're saying? I'm not saying anything. I'm just leaving it up to the people who want to think what they want to think based on decisions that have been made. Now, of course, I'm not going to try to insinuate that he is racist. He had black friends, remember Grant Hill? But anyway, but he had and Kyrie Irving and Elton Brand. He had a lot of those black friends.
Grant Hill
helped him out and moved on. But hey, I thought, I initially thought when I first heard Coach K maybe calling it a career, I thought that Tommy Amarger would get the job. I really did. And I thought ironically, I thought it was because he was the black guy. I guess I was wrong.
Yeah. It's it's taken me a while, but I've kind of grown to like Coach K. So I feel a little bit bad that he's going out under a cloud of controversy. But as a Tar Heel fan, bring on the controversy. Let them fight it out.
As a UNLV fan, and what happened in 1991 during that fixed Final Four game, and I will stick by that statement, fixed Final Four game, when Larry Johnson couldn't take care of Christian Laettner and all that other nonsense, and they ended up winning the national championship after beating UNLV in the Final Four. I did not like Coach K for a long time after that, but I have warmed up to Coach K because, you know, he comes across as a nicer guy, and they're known for basketball because of him. Their football team is never going to get the credit, even when Steve Spurrier was there. They're not going to get the credit the basketball team is getting. I mean, I went to
that was the best. That was the best that Duke football team.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Tufcliffe started off hot, but Tufcliffe eventually got fired because he was hot and then he wasn't. But I remember going to ACC Media Day with the football team, and there was a kid named Alex Wade. He was a fullback for Duke, and he and I spoke about things. And the crazy part about it, he and I were speaking at ACC Media Day. It was in Greensboro, Georgia. We was at we ultimately had stayed at the Ritz-Carlton, actually, and we talked about the stock market. We talked about finance. That's what we were talking about.
That's more interesting than Duke football.
You know what? Exactly. And I told, you know what? Yes, I forgot. I think it was Georgia Tech. I told him, I think you're going to beat Georgia Tech this year. Fast forward all of these years later, I just looked him up on the internet. He was at med school in Wisconsin, Madison, and he remembered me. He was like, "You the one who said we were going to beat Georgia Tech," and they beat him that year. And so, yeah, that's just a side story with Alex Wade. Excellent guy, brilliant guy, and I like excellent guys, the quintessential student athletes, which he was, and most players from Duke are the same as well. So we talked
about this. We talked about this before, but I think part of Coach K growing on people is the Olympics. You know, he did a great job with the different Olympics team, and like I said before, you know, we saw him cry and yada yada. So we saw a soft and sensitive side. So, you know, it's I think, yeah, guys like you and me who normally wouldn't like him at all have come to like him.
Well, and we like him now. We don't like having to leave the 10th episode of Yo Trav Matt Ballin. And let me say 10 with two hands, because that last time I think someone told me I said 8th episode, I didn't have 8th, and they called me like what was this, bro man from Martin and whatnot, saying the wrong things. But anyways, this is episode 10 of Yo Trav Matt Ballin. Scott, the G, and I, we thank you for watching us. And if you want to download this, go to SoundCloud. Don't forget all about that. And we will be back for episode 11. Meet us there.